Hi, everybody. So, I actually decided to change my argument topic because I was originally going to do it over the opposing view of the paper that I wrote on gun control, but I was writing it and I just didn't have enough coming out of my brain. So, I decided to change my topic to equal pay for women, so equal rights for women. And I'm just going to share a little bit briefly. So, since the 1900s until present day, women have been fighting for their civil rights. Though today women have more rights than they used to, there is still a fight for all equal opportunities despite their gender. In 1920, the 19th Amendment was created and passed, giving women the ability to vote. Since then, there has been many other amendments and laws. There hasn't been many other amendments or laws for women's equal rights. Through organizations like the NOW, the National Women's Organization, and the PVW, the Business Power Women's Organization, have had social strength to fight for more equality in society. This issue is still relevant today, and there are many women in the workplace that are getting paid less just because they are simply a woman. Many lawsuits have been filed against companies who still treat women like this, but unfortunately, the lawsuits haven't had much of an impact. Women from all different types of workplace have given testimonies on their own experience working in a sexist environment. These testimonies show that the majority of the business world is still sexist. For the world and pay wages, gender should never matter because it's how well you perform the given task, not what you look like or the gender or your gender. In an article published by Alterna TV News, the author Okamoto writes briefly about the status of women governing society. The news is current and still relevant to this day, and in her writing she quotes, in 1972, a woman stood for president for the first time. This was groundbreaking news to all American citizens. Many didn't believe it would happen because of how sexist things really were back then, and especially how disciplined society and male figures were to confine to this power of male figures only. This woman's name was Victoria Woodhull, and she will be remembered forever, even though she lost the election. Putting herself out there as the first woman to run for president was something extremely important to start the women's civil rights movement. She dealt with a lot of hate, and some people were even women that hated on her, that were too scared to stand up to their husbands or too scared to stand up to male authority. Along with the hate she acquired, she also acquired more women that believed in equal rights to join her movement. The main idea of Woodhull's run for president was to make a statement, and logically she knew she wasn't going to win, but the more important thing is that she got her name out there and her name on the ballot. That sent a statement through the entire country, giving hope to those who had dreams of making a difference like Woodhull. Woodhull inspired women to take more action and opportunities in governing in the U.S., and in 1984, a woman became a Supreme Court justice for the first time. This woman's name was Sandra Day O'Connor. Both Sandra and Victoria were the start of women gaining more equal rights. Now, with both of them in office and more women in office, she would have a say in federal decisions that affected women. In another article written by Louise Marie Roth, she specifically talks about the most powerful and influential businesses of all times. Wall Street has been one of the most successful platforms of business since before the 1900s. Along with this power, there is also a substantial amount of discrimination and sexism. With this power and money, Wall Street generally has obtained from following the laws that have been created to give women equal pay. Documented cases of sexism and discrimination in the workplace have been reported and continue to be reported against Wall Street's working women. In her article, she says, despite laws forbidding gender discrimination in employment in 1964, continued gender equality has been well documented. So, sadly, there's only so much women can do to fight for this inequality that is still being practiced in the workplace today. Especially because of how much money Wall Street had, this made them very powerful in any political agreement against them. In 1997, a reported injury of both women and men's annual salaries showed that women were getting paid substantially less than men for the same job. Another article by Catherine Amos talks about women's rights advocates along with the NOW and the BPW, the National Women's Association and the National Business and Professional Women's Organization. Both of these fight for women's rights and their equal pay. And as Amos quotes in her article, the BPW organization has worked for equality for women in America and getting the vote to get equal pay. Women all over the country have been trying to gain more and more voters to fight for gender rights. To make a change, women have to join the governing of America to have a voice, and since the government makes ultimate decisions, these decisions can be influenced by wealthy and powerful organizations like the NOW and the BPW. In my final article, many cases of gender discrimination were quoted by Elizabeth Cooper. Along with the court's defense of why it was okay to pay women less, the article directly quotes the law court of defense, which was that the job men and women were doing were different. The fine line between these men and women's job was so superficial that it just infuriated the media and gave women's rights advocates all the more reason to fight unfairness. Why is a male able to classify the same jobs but under different job titles just to discriminate pay? It seems illegal to do so, but with this quote justifying that with just a job change title or testimony from a male worker, they are able to pay women less, which is very unfair and even a bigger reason to why women fight to be in the government and have a say in court cases like that one. In conclusion, women will continue to fight and hold their civil rights through dedication and determination.